Greetings and salutations, malefactors and YouTubers. We're doing a couple of things today, but for the most part, we're going to be reviewing the Jet Four Seasons jacket found on Amazon. So kind of what I've been able to determine is this is a company that's a Chinese-made jacket, originally just found in the UK. Very few reviews on it. I was going to shed some light on some of the functions of it and the build quality, and maybe we even might go a bit Project Farm and do some actual product testing. Unfortunately, I've been waiting for another cold day down here in Texas, and I haven't been provided with anything that's in the 30s or 20s anymore. Yeah, everything's been in the 70s right after snowing. So we're going to start with the outer jacket. So to let you guys know, first and foremost, on a Joe Rocket I wear a 2XL. This is a 4XL, and it fits well up in the chest area, but oddly enough in the waist area it's cut rather tight. So when you order this, if you're used to wearing a 2XL in a, I guess, traditional sizes, 2 sizes up, it still fits, but it's a little bit uncomfortable. Now as far as the outers go, you have your regular Cordura stuff. It feels relatively well made. Shoulders appear to be a slightly higher denier material than the elbows, which is, you know, a little bit out of the ordinary. The buttons and zippers are, you know, your standard KKE quality, or YKK. The one thing that's going to kind of throw you off about the jacket is it's a left-hand zip. So as a person from the States, it kind of throws you off. That's generally what would be the type of zipper found on female clothing. Takes a little bit getting used to. So the inner material, this is a pretty standard jersey mesh. Nothing nothing out of the ordinary there. You have a CE Armor backplate, which is a little smaller than the ones I'm used to on riding jackets. And then you have CE foam armor in the shoulders and the elbows. Now one thing that's kind of different from this jacket than your Alpine Stars, your Joe Rockets, stuff of that nature, is most of the jackets let you put in your CE armor from a zipper on the outside, which is actually a pretty good way of doing it. So on this, you have Velcro directly on the mesh material, and you have foam pads, a little bit of plastic on it. Doesn't actually appear to be. It's actually a little bit better quality than the foam that came with my Joe Rocket that died after 2 years. I actually replaced it with a replacement armor that looked a bit more like what's found in this jacket. What kind of puts me off about this design, though, is this jersey material. Operating all the Velcro, and it's very difficult. And from experience of having pants that have kind of a similar design, this stuff happens to tear itself apart when you have Velcro in it. Another thing that kind of is a little strange is whenever you have the inner layers, you have these snaps that go through that are just fastened directly to the mesh material, not to the outer jacket. In my experience, I've also torn those out on my pants as well, so my inner liner doesn't quite stay where it's supposed to. But also bear in mind, this is an $80 jacket and not a $230 jacket. So you kind of it's a kind of get what you pay for sort of deal with that. There's a lot of adjustability in the sleeves, the waist, all of that. It's all very standard features. It zips to be relatively watertight, relatively airtight, and hopefully I can get a cold day and do a demonstration on that. The pocket material seemed to have decent attachment. The seams appear to be well done. So for a Chinese $80 riding jacket, I would say it's probably, it has some areas where it could improve as far as like adding the stronger denier material over the elbows. But for the most part, this actually appears to be a really well constructed outer as far as like stitching and everything else goes. Though on the creases, I would suggest that you'd probably want to look for a double stitch. This is all single stitch. So while a lot of jackets do use single stitch, the mid-grade ones to high-end ones use a double stitch on nearly all of the seams in high impact areas. As far as the cuff adjustability, one thing that would be nice to have that is on my Joe Rocket jacket, and I use it as a comparison because I've had that jacket 5 years. It's just not good at cold weather riding because it's a mesh jacket. They have a cam strap. This just basically by a little bit of Velcro on the sleeve, so you lack a little bit of adjustability on that. However, the liners are far better than what I have on my jacket. So this is the cold weather liner, and it's actually a full long sleeve cold weather liner with 2 fasteners to keep the sleeves in place, and you get a little bit of elastic at the end so you don't have cold air shooting up your sleeve, which is the enemy of layered riding. The material is actually relatively thin, but it seems to be fairly well made. You got a little cell phone pocket in here. Or if you're like me, you have a heated vest, you could put your battery pack in this part if there was any room around the waist. So this would be your innermost layer. On Joe Rocket and similar jackets, you just get a small fleece vest, no sleeves, anything of that nature. Not particularly great for cold weather riding. This actually would do a bit better in the cold weather department. And instead of having a rain jacket outer, you have a rain jacket inner with mesh. And this plastic material that appears to be kind of like a Drytex. Now the construction of it actually feels rather thin, and it also sticks to the Velcro, which might decrease the usable life of the product. And we are going to water test this. And at some point I will ask my lovely assistant to take me outside and beat me with spray me with the hose. And the water pressure I have the house is about 50 psi at the hose bib. So we're going to see how this stands up to 50 psi of torrential downpour directly at me. Which is not quite a perfect simulation for rain. It would be a fairly good simulation for doing about 75 in a very stormy day. So as far as assembling this jacket goes, I don't have a lot of practice with this because I've only worn it a couple of times. During the snow day, I actually wore it as kind of like a regular jacket. And I stayed perfectly dry and warm. Dry, warm, and happy. So, you snap through the hasp there. And then you go to the inner liner zip and make sure that you're not folding your material in it. Make sure to push your sleeves through. And it's kind of like putting together a tent. It's like I'm putting together a rain fly in my jacket. See, this is the other thing, is you have all this Velcro interfering with the inner bits. I mean, it's not very difficult, it's just you gotta pay attention to what you're doing. Now, the zipper mechanism actually seems relatively secure. So we're gonna open these sleeves up. I'm gonna pull through the sleeve and roll it back a little bit so I can find the hitches, the hasps, so I can attach this bad boy. So I think if there's going to be a failure point on this jacket, that it's going to be these loops to keep the sleeves in. That's where I would expect that this thing would actually let go after It took about 1.5 years on my pair of motorcycle pants for this very similar system to let go in those. Now I just kind of hope the boots hold my warm liner in place on my motorcycle pants. It usually does a pretty good job of it. And the same deal, your liner fastens to the hasps or the loops in your rain jacket part. Come on. So this might be a little bit hard to put together while you're out on the side of the road or whatnot. I would say this would be a good jacket to carry if you intend to use it for cold or wet weather riding. And if you have a second jacket, then I would probably keep that handy for your daily use. I still think this jacket for $80 is very impressive quality. So I'm going to put on, make sure I have all my sleeves in the right place. Yep. Yep. Alright. Step 1 of transformation. Now, one thing is my Joe Rocket jacket is a mesh jacket with a rain jacket outer that you zip on top of it. And then the inner is basically just a vest. So my normal cold weather layers is a thermal, a work shirt, my heated vest, a sweater, and then the fleece liner, jacket, raincoat. And then I cinch down the sleeves as much as I can, but they don't cinch down completely tight. And then I try and fit my cold weather gloves over it so I don't have cold air shooting up my sleeves. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'd say that jacket's comfortable down to about 54 degrees, maybe 50 degrees. After that, you can go about, even with the heated vest, you can go about 40 miles before you start feeling the ill effects of cold. And funny enough, when you start getting very, very cold, it's a lot like getting drunk. You start going hypothermic, and it simulates the effects of having had a few drinks. So when you start feeling a bit tipsy on the bike, that lets you know it's time to, slow down and take a few minutes to warm back up. Get something warm in you, take a little bit of a break, sit someplace. Extreme cold for the body is very detrimental to your survival. Another thing to bear in mind is that you got to stop the cold on the outside. That's your biggest goal, is to stop the cold before it gets in. And also to make sure that you have good guards on your neck and any sort of extremities, especially on your neck. A really warm gaiter or a well-placed scarf helps out almost as much, if not more, than what jacket you wear or what heated gear you use. So, let's see. Come on, fella. So as you see, this is not the easiest system to use to put the jacket together. And the loop on this side is extraordinarily small. Good thing it's made out of elastic. I can pull it, but it's actually smaller. It's actually smaller cut than the jacket loop that I'm putting through it, which is proving to make this already more difficult. So another suggestion to the manufacturer is to maybe revise your fastening system and put a little bit better quality control on your fastening loop sizes. See, same with this side. So the other side, you had plenty of room. These were cut generously for putting this back in. And this loop right here, I can barely get my index finger through. So that's one of the other things about fit and finish. Well, you kind of understand that when you order, you know, cheaper products, you do have times where you have fit and finish issues. That's kind of par for the course. It's like when you were rebuilding a motorcycle and you decide that you're going to order one of the no-name carburetors off of eBay, and you're expecting, you know, like Mikuni or Keen quality. You're not going to get Mikuni or Keen quality. But if you're pretty good at machining your own stuff, or you have a very discerning eye, you can sometimes get away with using products, as long as you have the ability to kind of do a bit of self-repair. It's important to have the skills to be able to modify in situations where you might be handed a product that might not work very well. Now in this case, I would say, if I were rating the jacket so far for ease of use, I would rate it a 4 as far as, out of a scale of 1 to 10, a 4 as far as like putting all the components together. It took quite a bit of time. Now as far as outer finish goes, I'm actually really impressed with it. Minus the fact that the sleeves don't have a high denier material, which is a little bit concerning. I also like the fact that this jacket comes with multiple layers of interior zippers and fasteners. So I mean, you really are working well to get the cold out of here. It's just, man, this left-handed zipper. Really just kind of weirds me out. It's hard to work with. So as it stands right now, you zip the inner layers. You fasten the Velcro over itself. I know this isn't the best angle, but you already have an airtight, watertight seal right below your main zipper. At this point, the jacket's still comfortable. Now here's the part that's a little bit rough. So, the waist itself, let's get this put down. The waist itself is cut very small. So where you feel like you're swimming in the jacket at your chest and shoulders and arms, when you're at the waist, it's like a straight cut down. This would be a really good jacket if you had an hourglass figure. But if you have any sort of like stomach or creamy human nougat that you have to stuff in this thing, it's a bit like stuffing a sausage. So once you pull it up a bit and zip it, you notice I have ample room, shoulders, arms, chest region, and then I get down to the waist and I'm adjusted all the way out, and this thing looks like it's about to come apart at the seams. I can still bend and move in it. It's just not terribly comfortable. So I'm going to have to make me fit it a little bit. It's just like the best suspension modification you can do on the bike. It's the best clothing modification I can do for this jacket, is continue dropping weight. So this is what I call old reliable. This is my comparison jacket. I guess my control of my experiment with the jet jacket. So this is kind of what I'm talking about. Notice how we have double stitching in most of these areas. Zippers where you can access the CE armor from the outside. And none of your attachment points are in the soft, creamy mesh nougat, larger back pad. Though this is a mesh jacket. You can imagine that this is not very good at rejecting cold. And the cold weather vest that comes with this thing is an absolute joke. So, I said, honestly, the composition of the shoulder and arm material is about the same. And I had this backwards. It was the rain jacket that has the cam tightener. These actually have about the same tightening system as the jacket, with a slightly more robust zipper system than the jet. So this is a 2X jacket that fits relatively generously. The chest is actually a little tighter than the Jet, but the waist is cut in a way where you have a bit of room to move, so it doesn't cinch down from here to here. I feel like I have my COVID mask in here. So that's, you know, kind of the differences that you'll notice between a $80 jacket, and this was on closeout. It was a discontinued model, but the it would be closest to like the Phoenix series, which usually runs about $229. So I mean, yeah, you get an extra stitch for another $100. I'd still say that, you know, comparatively speaking, the Jet's not a bad product. We'll see how it stands up to some torture testing and everything else. I can tell you that the rain jacket, which I have stuffed in one of my boxes here, is really good at rejecting rain, but this system is not good for cold weather riding. But we'll touch on that when we start doing some experimentation.